always think actually about the rural or urban questions as a territory, as an area, as a whole. So we should not really separate actually these two angles, because there's a little bit too much artificial discussions actually about the urban and rural. People, they are living in different areas, they are doing things in different areas, and it's the whole, we need to understand what the whole area is doing, what are the most important questions in the whole area, like how the services are organized between the cities and villages, how, let's say, people, they are finding job in the whole area, again, not just in one particular locality.
We need to understand what we are talking about in terms of what is a rural job. What does it mean that the person lives there? Does it mean that the person makes the money there and then brings it back to expanding it in the urban area? Does it mean this job is part of a bigger business model that is supplying income for the territory? Or this bigger model, like big factories supplying income for a bigger owner somewhere else? Does it mean that this is an entrepreneur creating a job for themselves and becoming part and contributing to the vibrant rural area? So all those type of understanding is very important in terms of our message of what we want to support. Jobs, when we talk about jobs and we talk about the activity, still agriculture is the predominant activity. But we really hear more and more, we realize that jobs are to be, let's say, created and wanted in other areas. And there is this trend that we have to thrive on, where people want to be actually outside of urban areas, even though there is such a big exodus because jobs are in the urban area. So there is this big potential of people wanting to become entrepreneurs.
From the discussion I had today, and also what you have just said for Bulgaria, whatever we do, it needs to be targeted to the local needs. Whether you will handle it with an urban intervention or a rural one. And we have spoken a lot about employment questions, but what came out this morning, and that is also our understanding, that with this aging population in Europe, the problem will not be the unemployment, but it will be the lack of active people. And it will be a major issue in rural areas. So now we are happy not having a big difference between urban and rural areas employment rate. Yes, because that is not anymore the problem we had at European level, is that we are not having enough active to run our services, to making economic activity, to be employed in big companies or small ones, whatever. And we have a special program in rural areas. So that's why we are also keeping the focus on rural areas, because what we see, and I have already said it this morning, that money is attractive to urban areas, and it does not automatically mean that it will also benefit to rural areas. It can. But if we think about these urban investments that way.
Poland is the country where this question is very much in front of us. Because what the Polish government realized, that if you're not connecting, let's say, urban and rural areas in their EU funds programs, in their policies, then they will be never able to understand actually this type of different, let's say, needs. And that's what we call, and now the jargon is coming again, as you said, the integrated territory investments, the ITI. And this is what we are looking at actually as a territory. The ITI is an instrument in the EU funds jargon where you can really connect all of these different measures or needs. Why? Because, for example, in big cities in Poland, they are running these ITIs in this way that some of the services are simply not in the city, but in the surrounding small cities or villages, and it works. That's why I would like to invite everybody actually to look at the territory, because the territory will solve, the territorial approach will solve the problem. What we see as works. The CLLD, there's another instrument which is also tackling actually, let's say, the area-based questions and not, again, the urban or rural questions.
If you are not involving rural areas in the local growth, in the national growth, EU growth, we will not manage. They are the engine of what we can now build on and to make economic growth in Europe. And so, for the moment, what we are missing is this analysis. What is the situation, whether they need a targeted approach, and what kind of targeted approach has to come back to the Bulgarian problem. If you are not analyzing it, we cannot target, but the difference, the situation is very different in different parts of Bulgaria. So we need to target if we want to achieve, and we need to have a strategy. And for that, For the strategical approach, we can have an everybody at EU level having a rural vision, but the same way, member states need to have a rural vision that need to be positive opportunities, as we have said, and economic, social, and environmental, because there are opportunities there that we are not using for the moment.
Do you think we have a good enough knowledge base? Do you think we understand the problems well enough to be able to develop this strategic approach and this vision?
In the future, we'll have an indicator to capture participants that come from rural areas, but also at the level of statistics. Maybe you know that DG Employment drafts a report on employment and social developments in Europe that exactly monitors the employment and social developments in Europe. Our focus is very much investing in people, so when people move, that is in a way the fund is a bit neutral to that. So if they move from after receiving training education in rural area, they move to an urban area, this is not per se seen as an issue necessarily. So this is something we are really trying to find more balance in, and we've been discussing it with DG Agri as well.
I think there's a clamour outside for change. It's coming from the streets, it's on climate, it's on social issues. And what we see at EU level is a response to that. For example, the political guidelines from the Commission talk about basically the key word is transition. And it's a green transition, it's a digital transition, it's a just transition, but it's a change to something. At the same time, the paradigm about rural development and the narrative about rural development is changing. It's changing from rural being the victims to rural being the actors in this transition. So it's looking at what the assets are, what the opportunities are, also the obstacles of each area, and saying, okay, what contribution can we make? What role do we have? You see that there are a lot of specific assets and attributes that rural areas have that they can contribute. So there's a positive message there. So there are changes in the way of measuring progress that are being talked about. There's a big risk in continuing with the existing measures. So we heard that if we just focus on short-term growth and employment, there's a risk that we just put the money to where the growth is already happening and where it's easiest to create a lot of employment. That can actually increase the disparities, because there are some rural areas that are very endowed with resources and opportunities, and others which are less so. So if we just go for these simple measures of growth and the opportunities that different areas have, we could actually widen the gap. So all these things need to be reflected in the next CAP plans, in the milestones, in the indicators. There needs to be a lot of thought on this, because if you get these things wrong, people will start going in the wrong direction. The objective for vibrant rural areas is only 1 of 9. So it's a small part. CAP funding must be used strategically. It can't cover everything, so you need to know what the needs are, but you also need to know what is being covered elsewhere, what the policy landscape is, and where are the gaps that you can really use the CAP money in the most effective way. There has to be a holistic, a synergistic way of looking at things. There needs to be a lot more work done on how in practice the funds are going to pull together and really work in this holistic, synergistic way. So let's use this opportunity of the long-term vision that Mario talked about. The new president has made some very strong positive statements about rural areas and has asked for this long-term vision. And it should be a vision, I still think it should be a vision that comes from the rural and is based on the needs of the rural. There is already an urban agenda, and I think, so let's sort of talk about the needs in the rural and how this can be articulated into specific measures.
We've discovered that social innovation can create rural employment opportunities in areas such as cooperatives, renewable energy communities, social integration enterprises, and all sorts of other domains like food production. We have care for elderly people or for children, women, and other marginalized groups such as, for instance, Roma refugees.
There was a nice new mindset towards the remote work. And I think when we have this new mindset for that, so it opens totally new window for people to work from their homes, even from the rural areas to the offices, wherever they are. I believe that also the declining areas, the one where the population is declining, those are vibrant areas as well. But we should have a method to keep them alive and to support the vibrant areas, although the population is declining. So there we need smart shrinking, the long-term ideas and methods to do it.
So many of the barriers we face, so many of the obstacles that we have to overcome will not be overcome by a lot of capital investment in hard technology or business development. A lot of what's needed is communication, is knowledge, is capacity building, is developing confidence, is raising people's game to get them to think more long term, not just to go for the quick wins. There is a lot we can learn from each other, so networking is very important. We want to be more integrated and we want to be more holistic, but we're always constrained by controls, by administration, and by a kind of risk aversion in the public administration and in the funding, which works against our ambitions. And we have to find a better way to address this challenge.